It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here this Labor Day weekend. It's Jill on Money, where we are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. Labor Day weekend. You know what I did? I went to the Department of Labor website and I did a little history lesson. Okay? Labor Day is always the first Monday in September. And here's what it says. It's a creation of the labor movement and is dedicated to the social and economic achievements of American workers. Well, that's what it means. It was, frankly, started back in like 1885 AD, 1886. New York was the first to become the first state to celebrate Labor Day. So happy Labor Day to you. And we got a question about early retirement in honor of Labor Day. First up today, Michael from New York. How can I help you out, Michael?
Hi, Jill. It's great talking to you. My wife and I are both 47 years old. We're looking to retire within maybe the next 4 years.
Wait a second. Hold on. You're going to retire in 4 years?
We're trying, if not sooner.
Oh, my gosh. Are you sitting on top of a pile of money, I hope?
A little bit.
How much?
We have about $3 million.
Okay. And you have a couple of kids in the picture or not?
No kids.
No kids. It does make your retirement planning a bit easier, let's be honest.
It does.
How about, do you own the place where you live or are you renting?
No, we own, no mortgage, no debt.
No mortgage, no debt. Okay. And of the $3 million, tell me how much of that is in retirement accounts? In other words, what would be taxable if you pulled it out, and how much in non-retirement accounts?
So I have a Roth 401k with about $530 and a traditional IRA with about $550.
Mm-hmm.
My wife has all traditional IRAs and 401ks, and she's about $800.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have about $800 in taxable accounts.
Okay, great. When you look at how you spend your money right now, would your retirement have to kind of keep up with that exact level of spending? Or are you planning to say, I'm willing to cut back on the money we're spending in retirement so we can get out earlier?
Absolutely willing to cut back.
You are? Okay, that's great. Are you going to stay in the New York area, or are you planning to bolt once you're done with working?
Nope, we're going to pull up and move to someplace much, much cheaper.
If you look at your real estate right now, if you were going to just blow it out, what would the value be? Don't do the top dollar. Give me a conservative estimate of what you'd pull out of a sale.
Probably $300.
Okay. $300,000. Let's just presume that you sell and you move somewhere else with a cheaper cost of living, but you spend the $300 you pull out, you actually say, okay, we're just going to spend that in the next place, okay? So that we then have the $3 million essentially to work with. I think that the issue that is going to be challenging is that two things. One is, how are you going to manage health insurance?
That is a good question. That's the wild card in the planning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things that our planner is kind of discussing with us is possibly pulling some of the money and converting it into an immediate annuity and to generate our cost of living money. Our food, clothing, shelter, health care.
Why do you need to do an immediate annuity? Can't you just do that yourself? And so an immediate annuity, you'd pull, let's say, some of your non-qualified money out, right? Because you wouldn't want to turn on the spigot yet and start paying taxes. Why pay an insurance company to create that? I mean, you're working with a financial advisor. Why don't you just say, well, why do I need to do that with them? Why don't you do your job and make sure that I can live on, I'm going to make it up, $5,000 a month? How much do you think you can live on?
I think that's about the number we targeted.
Okay. Is that including or not including health insurance?
That would include.
Wow. All right. Because I sort of feel like health insurance is going to be $1,000 a month easy for you guys. So you're going to live on $50,000 a year. And then in addition, you'll have to pay for health insurance. All right. I'm going to trust you. I am not going to doubt that that you can figure that out. So what I guess I'm saying is that, let's say, forget about 4 years, you get to be whatever, you're 51, 52 years old, right? If you look at your projections, how much do you think you'll save in that non-qualified account over the next 4 years?
We could probably do maybe another 400,000.
Really? That would be fantastic. That's great.
I think so, because our income currently, we both make 200,000.
All right, so you make 400 a year. If in 4 years you've got $1.2 million, what we need to figure out is, can you generate enough money at that time to cover your $5,000 a month, right? And you pretty much have to sort of count on the fact that you're going to spend that down. You kind of get close. I'm still concerned about how long it takes you to get to claim Social Security. Like, you've got this 10-year time horizon and maybe 15 years where there might be real needs to pull money, and then you lose all of that compounding. Let me ask you this. Let's say you retire from working in a high-pressure job. Would you guys consider working part-time and to bridge the gap so we don't have to drain the whole non-qualified account?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I think you might be able to make it work. I don't think you need an immediate annuity because you're just going to pay fees for that. And I guess that I would make a different suggestion to you, that if in 4 years interest rates were way higher and immediate annuities were a good way for you to say, okay, let's look at the numbers. I think you should look at it as a means of comparison at that time. I wouldn't do anything like that now. But if interest rates are higher and the guarantee is such that you can say, okay, we're going to retire, we're 51, 52 years old, we're going to take a portion of that non-qualified account, and it makes sense to put a portion of that into an immediate annuity. The reason why I wouldn't do the whole thing is that you lose all your liquidity then. You're screwed. We want you to keep that money. I don't think you're even going to need it. I think that any advisor worth his or her salt would be able to create income for you from that $1.2 million account. And so let's say that from the $1.2 million, you pull $30,000 a year. Okay. And then from your ability to work part-time or do some project work or whatever it is you do, you guys generate another $30,000 a year. Okay. Then I think we're pretty close, or 30 or 40 grand, just between the two of you. Then I think this works pretty well, because what in my strategy here, what I would be thinking about is, can I live on the non-qualified account until I claim Social Security? And can I then leave the Roth 401k, the traditional 401k, the traditional IRA, can I leave those assets alone so that they can grow? And then in my 60s, I can use those to create the income to supplement whatever the Social Security is. I think that, to me, is the game plan. So I think you're kind of close. I just think that if you set your sights close, if you say 55 versus 50 or 52, you're going to be more comfortable. I think you're close enough that you could probably do some research and make it work. I would feel more comfortable if you were my client. I would feel more comfortable if you were willing to at least look at different scenarios rather than calling it quits at 52. How's that sound?
That sounds great. I really appreciate the advice.
Okay, we will get back to more of your questions in just a minute. If you want to get on the air with us, send an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Hey, have you gone to the website recently? You should. JillOnMoney.com. You can watch some TV segments, read some old blog posts or some really recent ones, and also listen to old programs. You can also buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. 13 ways to right your financial wrongs. You know you want it. You might as well get it. Just get it now. Okay. If you have a financial question while you're on the website, just click on the Contact Us button and you will get us very easily that way. All right, let's do our next caller. It's Steve from Cleveland.
Good morning, Jill. Thanks. My mom and dad were getting very close to retirement. Mom was 62. My dad was 60 when my dad unfortunately passed away very unexpectedly.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. So I'm trying to help my mother figure out a new plan for retirement and for her finances going forward, since the old one isn't really going to work anymore.
Right. So tell me a little bit. So mom is 62. Tell me, is she working?
She is working. The original plan was she was going to work for one more year, and then she was going to retire and start collecting her pension. My dad was going to work for a couple more years as they tried to squirrel away as much money as they could into their retirement accounts. And also they were planning on, figuring out where they actually want to live in retirement and selling their house and things like that.
Okay. So right now, in terms of where she is living, she's living in the home. How much is the house worth right now?
The house is probably worth about $600,000. I think there's about $100,000 left on a mortgage.
Where does she live? What is her state of residence? Also Ohio?
Michigan.
Okay, Michigan. The mortgage, the house, is it a big house? I mean, what do you and also how soon was this did your dad pass away? How long ago?
And that was just a couple months ago.
Oh, so we don't really want her to make big decisions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right now she's working on finishing off the house just to try to get it ready to sell. Because that was the plan anyway. And it's a lot of house for one person to live in.
Yeah.
We're still working on figuring out where she actually wants to go, where she wants to live, if she wants to work another year or two or just be done after this year like the original plan. My primary concern, I think, right now is there's so much to think about. I'm struggling prioritizing.
Okay.
Cash flow seems like a big problem right now because mom's income was much less than dad's.
Okay.
And her income covers the mortgage, and that's about it.
Okay, so how much does mom make?
I don't know her actual salary, but take home is about $2,500.
And what do you think her expenses are? And staying in the house, let's just presume that she stays in the house for, at least through the end of the year. But what are the expenses that she has to juggle for her basic, not, going crazy, but also not scrimping?
Yeah, so mom's been doing a good job of keeping track of that. It's about $3,500 a month.
All right, so we got to get $1,000 a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about, besides the house, the assets that she and your dad had accumulated.
Sure. So between the two of them, they had, I think, about $250 in various rollover IRAs from previous employers. My dad had about $100,000 in an ESOP plan with his employer that he was with when he passed away. In retirement, mom is expecting about $3,000 a month in pension plus whatever from Social Security, which I think was estimated at about $2,000 a month.
Okay, so that obviously, as soon as that gets turned on, will cover her needs. So that's really the issue. Okay. Anything in non-retirement assets?
Thankfully, my dad had a good amount of life insurance through his employer. So that was about $250,000 that paid out once all the paperwork was done there.
Okay.
So that's actually very helpful right now. That's how bills are being paid.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So for this minute, let's think about the best way to address the cash flow problem. And that is to use the life insurance proceeds, which is exactly why life insurance proceeds are so fabulous, right? There's no problem in spending some of this money down. Did they have any other money in savings, or is the life insurance proceeds essentially all the savings that is not in retirement?
That's the bulk of it.
Okay. So here's what I would do. I wouldn't start putting that life insurance money to work anytime soon. I would assume that you should keep at least $50,000 liquid. Okay. How much more money does she have to spend to get the house in shape, by the way?
I think the total quotes she got, so the work is ongoing. I think it's going to be 50 or 60.
Okay. So
she needs ready to sell.
All right. So she needs, of the 250, she needs $50,000 for the ongoing needs, just so she has that $1,000 a month that she needs to live on, right? and it's set aside, and that's it. And she needs $60,000 for the house. So that's what we know. So of the 250, 110 is spoken for. That's it. Don't let anybody at all talk you into doing anything with that 110. The 140 is intriguing that remains from that life insurance, because obviously that if you added that 140 and you had the 350 or so of the retirement assets, that's a decent amount of money. But I'm a little bit unwilling to go crazy with the 140, because I think that we just don't know what's going to happen next for Mom. How is Mom just in terms of managing the money? Is she relying on you to manage the money? Did your dad manage the money, or do they have an advisor? Tell me a little bit about what was going on for them.
So my dad did most of that when he was still around. Mom, she doesn't know where.
Let's just say that she was very good at delegating the responsibility of asset management to your father.
I like that.
Okay, thank you.
So she's been relying on me a lot to help figure things out financially. They do have an advisor they've been working with for at least a couple of years now that I actually wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out how to evaluate the advisor. I got a bit of a bad taste in my mouth initially when I was looking through some of the paperwork for their rollover IRAs that these people are managing, because it looks to me like they're operating under the semi-standard 1% of assets model, but they also sold them funds with a huge front load, which is a taste in my mouth.
Boo! Good. Keep that bad taste in your mouth. Rinse twice a day and get rid of that person, because if they're charging a fee and a front end load, that's no good. That's not cool. And by the way, maybe it depends on how much you really want to do. I mean, if you feel comfortable doing this, one idea I would have is to say, you know what, when you take over the management of this, you can just open up a pretty boring account and buy some index funds and get Mom into a fairly conservative portfolio, because look, when she retires, she is going to have good income, really good income. And you won't have to sweat this. $5,000 a month pre-tax, presuming she doesn't have as big a house, is probably going to be pretty close to what she needs. Now, in terms of managing the money, there are two things. You could go to a fee-only financial planner. You could literally get somebody to help her, at the very least, just focus on what the game plan should be. And then, build a plan out, and then maybe or maybe not manage the money. Maybe you'll manage the money. In my heart of hearts, given her age and everything that's going on and how sudden this sounds, I would actually tell her to keep working, because I think that is going to be a consistent part of her life that will help her a great deal. And it's not for the money, because I actually think that financially she probably can swing it, but I actually believe that for her emotional state, it might be better to keep working. Okay, we will get back to more of your questions in just a minute. Have you started to follow us on social media? Sometimes we do some very interesting stuff. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube @JillOnMoney is our handle. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You are back. It's Jill on Money. It's Labor Day weekend, gang. And I hope that you are enjoying it. I hope that you labored throughout the summer and labored very tirelessly at your vacation if you got one. If you took a vacation and you didn't disconnect, I totally understand. I thought I was going to. I didn't. Hey, Mark, it's kind of hot in here. Can you turn down the temps? You want to heat me up? Anyway, I tried to disconnect. It just did not work that well. I wish I could have done it better, but, markets, crazies, all that. But We are here, and now it is time to tell you one of the reasons that I love what I do is I receive emails of thanks sometimes. So here is a note from Steve, who I had met at a speaking engagement earlier in the summer. And he discussed sort of a long, rambling email, but let me give you the basics here. His wife is foreign, and she believes that debt is toxic. And he said, my wife knew that I had student loan debt and somehow bought the explanation that the $60-some thousand I owed was normal. And he says, subconsciously, I think I thought I would have this debt until the day I died. And meeting you and then hearing you on the podcast caused me to do something I feared more than flying. I put all of my debts, student loans, credit cards, personal loans, on one page, and I took stock of where I was. After coming to the realization I was broke and needed to show my wife all of it, most of which I had kept from her, we had a pretty rough weekend, perhaps the most painful, soul-bearing, vulnerable weekend of my life. My wife not only had nearly as much in savings as I had in debt, but she had finished a master's degree, which she had paid for in cash. All the while, I was going to games and conferences and paying for upgrades and hotel amenities. And he writes, my wife, deciding I was somehow worth sticking around for, which kind of like brought a little tear to my eye, worked with me to come up with a game plan that will have us externally debt-free by 2022, which would be the first time in my adult life, by the way. And then by 2023, debt-free to her. All the while, saving for a down payment on a house and a car. And he says, it was the 1-2 punch combo of the message you presented that really hit me, that I needed to face my debts and my spending habits head on. 2+ weeks later, we are on track. We're closer than ever in our relationship. It's been emotional, but me baring my soul to her and being vulnerable has allowed her to put aside her mistrust with me and money and allowed me to feel like a true equal working together toward a shared goal. I'm sure you get emails like this often, but I feel like there's not only hope for me to live the life I want to live, but meeting you may have saved my marriage. Mark. Anyway, so this is one of the most gratifying emails that I have ever received because it sort of puts everything together. It's why I think Mark and I love doing this show, that we do feel like, of course, there's a bunch of rich people who call in and we love to help you guys, but there are also people who are in crisis, and we really understand that this is a taboo topic. It is hard to talk about with your spouse, with your kids, with your parents, and anything we can do to get you on the right track, to take some of this emotion out of it and to save you a little heartache, boy, that's about the best thing ever. Okay? Okay, here is and by the way, if you've got a financial question, just email us. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That's what Joe did. He and his wife have lived comfortably. They've got a couple $100,000 saved, a couple $100,000 in an IRA. My wife is a little bit younger. She wrote a book that we thought would do okay. Her publisher said it's in their top #1 sellers. She gets royalties. What should we do with the extra windfall? The book, he gives me the title, and he's all right. So what do you do with a windfall? Let's think about that. First of all, Joe, you need a game plan. So I need to know a lot more about you, and we need to understand, what are your goals? What are your objectives? Are you trying to retire early? Are you trying to save money for college? Are you do you have any outstanding debt? What's happening, Joe? Send us more info. We'd be happy to help you out, really. Okay? Denise has $574,000 from a pension, wants to know how to invest it. I don't own a home. I have no debt. I'm 66 years old. Social Security after taxes and Medicare deductions, that brings in about $1,900 a month. Savings account, $100,000. Mark, what should we do with this $500,000 pension? Should we put it in a nice balanced portfolio? These are very general questions. I love you all for writing these, but we need way more detail. So, Denise, If you don't have any other investments, this makes me very anxious for you to do this by yourself. So you may want to consult with somebody. You may want to use an automatic investing platform out there. Any of the ones that you might have heard of, like Betterment or Vanguard Personal Service Advisor, Schwab Intelligent Portfolio. You may want to check these out, or you may want to seek the services of a financial planner. Okay. Marianne writes, okay. I don't know if Marianne wrote this or someone else wrote this. This is funny. But anyway, Marianne says, my wife will soon be 70 and a half before me. We've got several IRAs. Hypothetically, we've got 10 different qualified accounts with 50 grand each. Can we take our required amount of withdrawal from one account or a certain amount from each account? Here's the deal. You can lump together all of your IRAs and take one distribution on behalf of the IRAs. But for the 403B, you've got to do it separately. So if all the IRAs added up to a bunch of money, and let's just call it $500,000, you can say one distribution from all the IRA accounts. Take one account, lump them together, but you can take it from one account. But a 403B, a 401k, or an annuity that's a 403B, that you have to actually take separately. Okay? Blowing through these, Mark. Feeling good. Jill Schlesinger back from vacation. It's Labor Day weekend. Have you subscribed to our podcast? It's called Jill on Money. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
Mark, look what I just did to this microphone. I'm going to hold it like this. I've now, ladies and gentlemen, theater of the mind, this is radio. I've just disconnected the microphone from the mic stand. I'm holding it like I am a cocktail lounge singer right now. Stick around for the veal. I'm here all week. Okay, this is if you're listening to Jill on Money, and what we would love you to do is hop onto our website, jillonmoney.com. Check out all the fun stuff that we put up there. And when I say we, I mean Mark, because he does all the hard work here. I put the content out. He gets it to you. So you can read things that we have written. You can listen to past shows. You can watch television and video segments. We've got a great resource section. And, of course, you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. And, of course, you can buy our book. The book is called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. I'm trying to prove to the publisher that I can sell, a couple thousand books every weekend. Let's see if you guys can help me out with that. I may not really be able to do that, but let's try. Okay. Sunny writes that I am trying to figure out what's the best course of action to take regarding retirement planning. I work for a city as an employee, and so I am investing some of my money into a 457 plan. My next goal is to set up a Roth IRA account for my wife and for me. My wife does not work. She stays home to take care of our two lovely boys full time. I recently talked to a financial company about establishing a Roth IRA. Is it wise to have them do it, or could I do it myself? Do it yourself. If you're going to do a Roth IRA through Vanguard, absolutely. He also writes, Sonny says, I'm also looking at setting up a 529 plan for both of my kids. So what I would do is I would try to establish that the Roth IRA through Vanguard, make it easy, just put in, you can do some money in a stock index, an extended stock index fund, some in a bond index fund, call it a day. 529 plan, you didn't say where you are from. Just make sure that whatever plan you choose, that you are not shortchanging your own retirement savings for that 529. So I love those ideas. It's fantastic. The 529, just make sure you do it through your state if your state offers some sort of specific deduction. Or if you want, just send us a note back. Let us know what state you live in, and we can say whether or not your plan is worth using or whether you might want to go out of state. Okay, here we go, Mark. One of your favorites. Our daughter is about $50,000 in debt from a college loan. She received full tuition. Oh, my God. But she had to take money out for housing. She's got a bachelor's degree, and her degree was in family and children's studies. She had to use an unsubsidized loan, which has been gathering interest since day one. She's now working on her master's. Mark's shaking his head like that's not good. Anyway, she's receiving full tuition. And so this is interesting. She's got a job, for some extras. And here's what the parent writes. We did not want her working full-time because we felt like her education was more important. That's good. But we are not able to help her financially because we've been in the hole since breast cancer bills after insurance. We are able to keep our home, pay our other bills. That's about it. Can you please help us and her figure out the best way to pay that loan or any avenue she can get to get it paid off quickly? Is there a public service that she can do that will pay it off for her? Well, there is something that is called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Plan, and you should look at studentaid.edu. You can learn about it. But I just want to broadly remind people that it's okay if you say, gosh, I don't want my kid to work. That's fine. But maybe what could have been a more prudent step would be to take some time in between undergraduate and graduate to start working that debt down. You know, I find that to be, there's a lot of people just gathering debt. I mean, especially in a field of study where you're just not going to make so much money. So anyway, you check out the Public Service Loan Forgiveness. There are a lot of very thorny requirements for it. If you don't have a federal student loan, it will not work. So I don't know if the unsubsidized part would be allowable under this. But anyway, this is a toughie. I don't really know what to do with this. We're going to book a guest shortly. Mark, what's her name again about the student loan? She's that professor from NYU. Caitlin Zaloom. We're going to have her come on and talk about this issue. It's crazy. Okay, Tom's brother, he's writing. Tom writes, my brother has 8 pieces of rental real estate property in addition to his 2 personal properties. He's named my son as the personal representative in his will. The will directs Tom's son to sell and liquidate my estate upon my death before distribution to my devisees. He lists his devisees as his brothers and sisters, e.g., my brothers and sisters and me. The will also states that the personal representative shall, quote, take possession of property to keep it safe, to retain, to blah, blah, blah. Question. Should the properties be transferred to my son upon my brother's death in order to avoid paying large capital gains? I believe he would get them at the market value of my brother's death versus if they were to be sold immediately without transferring to the estate. I want to get back to this. Let's come back to this right after the break. We're going to do a little quick recap about cost basis, step up, and real estate and why you really need to be careful about this. So when we come back, we're going to do a little estate planning boot camp for the last segment of the program, okay? It's Jill on Money. Hey, let us know if we can help you out. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios here in New York. And right before we went to the break, we got a question about an estate. And this is essentially a question about cost basis and step up. So here's the deal. If you are the beneficiary of some piece of property, of some stock, and someone gifts you that asset during his or her life, you basically are gifted not just the asset, but also the price at which the person purchased it. So that's the cost basis. But If that person dies and leaves you the same asset, you inherit the asset at a stepped up cost basis. Now, the question that was asked from Tom is about whether his son, who is named in his brother's will as the personal representative, I think that leaving the property to the son is not the issue. I think that what your brother really should be doing is talking to an estate attorney and finding out the most tax-efficient way to, A, own these properties, and B, leave them to his siblings upon death. Because what happens is the will is saying your son is going to be the guy who is kind of like the executor. I don't know who the executor of your brother's estate is going to do the stuff. He doesn't have to receive the property for a tax consequence to occur where you get the step up in cost basis. So what I really think is important is that in any of these events, when it comes to real estate and estate planning, you really need to actually talk to an estate attorney. Because Tom actually writes that he asked about his own home that he and his wife have in a trust. Does the trust automatically put it into our children's names so they get the property at market value at the time of our deaths? Well, since the trust owns the home, then that's where the estate tax is going to be triggered. So you should be talking to an estate attorney about whether or not that makes sense for you guys. Okay? So check that out. All right. Estate questions, investment questions, tax questions. We got them all right here. It's Jill on Money. After we come back from the break, we're going to take more of your fantastic questions. JillOnMoney.com is the website. Go check it out. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's hour number 2. It's Labor Day weekend, and you're listening to Jill on Money. We are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Insurance of all types, by the way. Check it out. Go to policygenius.com. All right, we are using Labor Day weekend to labor over all the emails that have been sitting around. So let's get through some of these. If you have a question, you need some help, just shoot us an email. It's askjill@jillonmoney.com. Askjill@jillonmoney.com. Leanne says she's 56 years old, single mom, of a 17-year-old. They've had some big-time life events. She's had a tumor in treatment, knee replacements. My mother died suddenly when I was in my 20s. Got divorced 5 years ago, and then my dad died. This is a terrible story. Just tons and tons of amazingly horrible events is what I can tell you. All right, now, my daughter has been my inspiration, right arm. I want her to go to a private school in Boston like she wants to, but I think it's going to be too much money. She's been in private Catholic school her whole life, but I don't want her to be saddled with debt. All right, so I have about $120,000 from my father's estate. I'm protective of it, and I'll have to take more time off for my own health care. And I also have about $200,000 in retirement accounts. When I do the college net cost calculator, I don't know what I list as assets. Well, you don't usually have to list retirement account assets, so that's good. But if the money from your father is in your name, then you'll list that. But I'm thinking that what you want to do, this is what you should do. You should have her go to money-mentor.com. Money-mentor.com. It's part of Common Bond, and it is a way for her to get hooked up with a trained college student, and that money mentor will make the process of applying for college and getting financial aid a lot easier. So that's what I think you should do, because you do have a very difficult story, and certainly, I mean, really, you don't want to fritter away money that you know you're going to need. I know you want her to be, you want her to get what she wants, and you all have gone through a lot, but we have to make sure that you really, truly are making sure that you take care of yourself as well as her. Okay, so here is Pamela, who says she's been listening to the show for a couple of years. And how nice. She says you're able to distill complex and potentially shame-inducing topics and make people feel empowered and optimistic. It's a gift. I've been thinking about writing you for as long as I've been listening. I decided to just do it. My hesitation has been that I'm not exactly sure what my question is. Anyway, she wants me to just come out to her beach house for a weekend and just chat over a latte. Listen, depending on where the beach house is, Mark and I can come. Do you mind taking care of an infant with us? It's not my baby. Mark has a mother of his child, and she is in his life. However, I'm going to come with Mark because who knows? You might be a knucklehead. I don't know. Anyway, okay. I'll tell you a bit about myself. Married for 31 years, 3 kids in their 20s. I earn about $200,000 a year. My husband earns about $150,000 a year with an annual bonus between 15 and 20. We own 3 rental properties and a primary residence with no mortgage. It's a lot of real estate. And the nut of this question is they own about $1.5 million of real estate, mortgages of $900,000. Husband's got $720,000 in a 401k, and then he started using a Roth 401k. He's got a bunch of money in other retirement accounts. So the question is, should we convert our IRAs to Roth IRAs? So I think until you have lower income, it may not be worth it to do the conversion. So if you start pulling back from your big income, then it could be interesting to convert. It really could be. But you really need to make sure that you've got money that's available to pay the taxes, but you don't want to drain all of that money because you need that money to live on. So you say you've got about, $450,000 in a brokerage account, $200,000 in cash. I wouldn't want to, I certainly would not want to drain all of that money. So I would say that if you could move to a situation where you could convert some of the money, sure, no problems. Just absolutely do it. But I might do it when you have a little bit less income. So that's I think what you would do. It's certainly a good story, and you seem to be in good shape. So how about that? Let's do it. Okay. Here's a message from Miles, who is going to school for business, and I have to take 6 accounting classes. Do you have any tips, and can you send me a free copy of the book so I can use it for a reference in any paper I might have coming up? No. Go buy your own book, mister. I have $66,000 in student loans in deferment. Is there a good way to pay them off? Yes, pay them off. Sorry to be so blunt about that, but that seems crazy. I mean, if you're in deferment now, that's fine, but I don't know. Like, I don't love these income-based plans through the federal government because it's really going to stretch out the length of your payback period. So hopefully you'll get a good job. Thomas is retired. He owes $97,000 on his house. He's got about $1.35 million in retirement accounts. No other debts outstanding. Should I withdraw money from my retirement accounts to pay off the mortgage, even though that will put me in a higher tax bracket for the year? No, do not do that. Stay in this bracket. If your bracket goes down and you want to pull some money out, sure, but this is going to be very easy for you to pay off over time. Don't worry. Don't make yourself crazy about that. Just, don't pull the money out, please. No reason to pay taxes that you don't need to pay. Jerry wants to know 401k statements and accounting. Which agency would be best to discuss or report 401k account discrepancies? First, go to the plan provider immediately. And if there's a problem beyond that, you would go to the Labor Department oversees it. ERISA is the big legislation that would oversee it. But go to the plan provider first and see where that leads you. Okay? All right, it's Jill on Money. Go to the website during the break, jillonmoney.com, and there you can actually buy the book. No, I'm not giving them away for free. Thank you very much. The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Hey, have you heard? We've got a sister podcast. It's called Jill on Money. It's similar, but a little different. Check it out. Jill on Money. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. All right, here is a message from someone who's calling me Aunt Jill, which means that they know me from way back when I used to appear on a CNET show. Okay. I'm not going to say the name because this person has a very distinctive name. I'm a 34-year-old with $70,000 in student loans. It's the only debt I have. I'm finishing a degree in IT at a public university. I can increase my income to pay off the loans. The student loans are from a for-profit school that shut down. Oh, brother. Anyway, I recently left a low-paying job with $20,000 in a 401k, $60,000 in an employee stock ownership program. My plan is to cash out the 401k to pay off my loan and leave the $60K in the ESOP just in case the company gets bought out. I have money saved up. That should be 3 months, emergency reserve. Should I just focus on paying off my loan or should I invest a little bit? No, leave the 401k alone. Take half of the money out of the ESOP and then use that to pay off. That's what I would do. That to me is... Don't pull money out of this 401k. That's when you start getting into trouble. You simply have just too big a tax liability, penalty, all of that. And then when you get your job, just kick ass and pay that stuff down. Okay? John is a retiring New York City firefighter. He's got $1 million in retirement accounts. Should I use a prearranged target date fund or create my own diversified portfolio? If I were to do it on my own, what should I use? The S&P 500? What kind of bond funds? I currently use the New York City Deferred Comp and Vanguard. What should my percentages of each be? Well, okay, I need more information. But, John, it sounds like you may be like the perfect candidate to use a robo-advisor, meaning an automatic investment platform. You should check out Vanguard, which has Vanguard Personal Service Advisor. This has you're used to Vanguard already. It has a steep minimum, but you're going to meet it. It's $50,000. That way, they'll take you through a whole bunch of questions, and then you can actually inform how the diversification what the diversification they would use for you is. So that's what I would do. I would check it out. Go check out Vanguard Personal Service Advisor. I think that's going to be smart. Richard is retired. He's 74. He's got Social Security, a pension, 2 fixed annuities. One is qualified. The other is non-qualified. I've got money in a savings account that I would like to put elsewhere to earn better than what the bank is giving me. Where would you suggest I put this money? Richard, are we talking about your safe emergency reserve money? Are we talking about you putting to work money that you actually want to keep really safe? If that's the case, you should probably just look at going with a money market account or a no-fee CD. Go to depositaccounts.com. You can see a listing all over the place. In terms of if this were an investment, I don't know. It depends how much money you have. So let us know how much money you have, and then we can try to steer you into, because if you say I've got $1 million in a savings account, obviously you're not going to put all of that to work. Okay. Joe says, big fan of the show, wanted to write for a long time. I finally made the time. The subject, should I sell my home in India? I immigrated to the United States 8 years ago at the age of 34 and became a citizen about a year ago. Congratulations. I intend to keep visiting India every couple of years, but I'm going to live and retire in the U.S. When I left India, I collected all of my retirement benefits and used it to pay off my mortgage. The property is now worth $250 to $300,000, and it brings in $3,000 a year in rental income after expenses. I expect the appreciation to keep up with inflation, but of course, hard to predict. I have two questions. Should I sell the home or keep it? I don't know. The rental income kind of pays for my India vacations. I mean, that sounds good. If I sell it, should I use the funds after tax to boost my retirement savings? I don't know. This is a hard one. Let me tell you a little more about this dude. He makes $250,000 a year. He's got $340,000 in retirement savings. He owns a house worth about $600,000 with a $370,000 mortgage. He's got another $50,000 saved up. Excuse me. And $6,000 in a 529. I don't know. I can't judge the real estate market in India. I mean, I presume it's probably decent, but I can't judge this for you. I really can't. I mean, I might talk to someone in India. It would be nice to have the, 200. And also, what kind of tax would you have to pay? It seems like you're doing pretty darn well. You're 34, you're making $250,000 a year. You've already saved a lot of money. Maybe I'd keep it for a little bit and or talk to people in India about exactly how much, you might need to put into the house and what the future is. But it's hard for me to weigh in on this. I'm so sorry. This is a difficult question to answer. Okay. Margot, said in response to an episode, is my financial manager charging too much? Margot writes, this was another fantastic episode. Wouldn't it be great if you could say that, Mark, so I didn't have to say it about myself? What was remarkable to me was that 20 minutes prior to listening to your podcast, I had just concluded a phone conversation in which I finally hired a Vanguard financial manager. I have several funds with Vanguard. I decided that since my profession is fitness training and not financial planning, it would behoove me to seek some management of my funds. Thank you so much for this episode. It really helped increase my comfort level and the overall feeling that I did the right thing by hiring a financial manager. From one upholder, no filter woman, I thank you for your podcast every single week. I truly enjoy it. Well, thank you. Thank you. That's very nice. Okay. This is from Richard, who's an avid listener to our show on 1510 in Phoenix, Arizona. My question: my wife and I are 67 and retired, and we have no earned income. Can we contribute to a Roth IRA? Answer: Mark says thumbs down. I agree with him. You need earned income. Sorry. It happens. Rick, Rick wants to know, are market losses in a Roth IRA able to be applied as regular market losses on your tax return? No, they are not. You cannot use that. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. So I absolutely, he had asked someone at Fidelity about that. The Fidelity guy said he couldn't, but you can't do that. I'm sorry. It's all, because it's a retirement account, you can't do that. Okay. Jay is a retired New York City school worker. He's got a tax-deferred annuity, and he said, I've been I've been pushed to a higher bracket by my required minimum distributions from my annuity. However, converting the tax-deferred annuity to a Roth would mean taking it all out, and that would be a huge tax. So, you know what? Here's the deal. Don't do it. First of all, the New York State annuity is amazing. It has a huge interest rate, and I would not mess with it. So just keep working on it, and you'll take you take your required minimum distributions, and that's okay. All right. So when we return, I'm just going to give you a quick cautionary tale about your conversion to a Roth IRA from a guy who calls himself a tax guy. All right? When we return, Roth IRAs, little known facts. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, go to the website, jillonmoney.com. Click on the contact button. And guess what? You should also sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. All you have to do is send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Want to keep up with all the stuff that we put out there? When you go onto our website, Jill on Money, sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Mark sends it out every Friday. It's kind of cool. All right, this is a wonky question, but I love it. So if you're not into the wonk, you may not love this as much as I do, but this is from Mark, who is a self-described tax guy. And he said, one thing never mentioned about Roth and IRAs is net present value. And he says, I would submit that the current tax cost for a 35 to 40-year-old's future tax liability is virtually zero. That is to say, if I get a 30% tax benefit on a $5,000 contribution, which is $1,500 today, I might choose paying the tax on the accumulated amount in 35 years. Yes, certainly the $5,000 is going to grow. Let's assume it grows to $50,000. The tax rate is 40%. That's $20,000 in future value. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, here's the deal. Bottom line, I believe that even if I had the option to invest in a Roth 30 years ago, I'm better off having made traditional 401k contributions. I was making a very good wage, so I was in a higher tax bracket then than I am in retirement. So for me, the Roth might not have been the best option. Just saying. Thanks, Mark. Mark, I totally get that. It doesn't work all the time. It really doesn't. But it does work a lot of times. I will say that. So that's worth kind of understanding. All right. This is from Eric. Jill, first of all, thank you for all the valuable content. My wife and I have been out of debt for a while. However, in the next 1 to 3 years, we anticipate needing to replace our vehicles, and also we've got to buy a house. We're going from no debt to taking on a mountain of debt is stressful. I'm wondering if you have any advice on the situation. We've been trying our best to prepare ourselves for these upcoming purchases. Currently, we've got an emergency reserve fund with 6 to 8 months of our expenses. We also contribute to our 401ks up to the match, and each max out a Roth IRA. Well, that's good. These retirement contributions add up to about 18% of our gross income. I like that. Saving about 20% is going to keep you out of a lot of trouble. Okay. As for the purchases themselves, we expect, oh gosh, they need 2 cars, not 1. Okay, so they're going to essentially say that they're going to accumulate about $250,000 in debt. And he wants to know kind of, what do I think? I don't know. You got to buy cars and you got to buy a house, then, pay your bills. I don't know if there's much to say about this. I'm going to give you the good news is you sound like you're very good savers. And depending on the cost of the car loan, maybe you'd sort of aim to pay that down more quickly, again, depending on the cost. If you may actually find yourself not being able to save as much because they're putting some money away, about, let's see, $1,300 a month to their high yield savings. Maybe you're not going to be able to do that, but that's okay. Whittle away. Don't buy too big a house and don't make yourself crazy. All right? How about that? Bill writes, I'm in a puzzling situation. I'm recently divorced. Our house is on the market, and I should be getting in the neighborhood of $150,000 when all is said and done. I'd like to buy another house, maybe in the neighborhood of $230,000 to $270,000. I'll soon be 65. I have excellent credit. I was wondering if it's better to take a 10, 15, or 30-year mortgage and putting the majority of the cash down on the house. Currently, I'm paying close to $2,700 per month on mortgage and tax payment, which I'm able to do, but it is stretching a bit. I'd like to be paying somewhere between $1,500 to $1,800 a month. I'm going to work a few more years. I've got $150,000 in retirement right now. Is it better to take a shorter or longer-term mortgage? And then my ex suggested a different approach with the cash from the house. Instead of putting the full $150,000 into the house, use a lower amount, invest the rest. This may be putting down $50,000 to $75,000. And I do work with my ex. It's a 2-person business. She would like to continue the business, but I'm looking to sell it relatively soon and most likely will stay on for a year or two. We are both equal partners. The value of the business is weighted towards me since I'm more of the identity. She does the accounting, and it would not be a success without her efforts as well. We split the inside sales duties. So I think there's a couple of questions that are being asked here. So one is, I don't know how you're going to get out of this business with your ex, because is she going to buy you out? I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. For the housing, I'm not sure that I would buy a house. I mean, why don't you rent for a little bit and see how it goes? Because I don't know, until you figure out how you're getting out of your business and what else you're going to do to work, why not just find some reasonable rent for a year, let things settle down after this divorce, and go from there? In general, this is an option that's going to preserve your cash. And if you were to buy a home, and I'm not saying you should, you wouldn't want to burn through all that cash because you don't, as you said, don't have that much money in total saved. So I don't think I'd buy a house right away. And therefore, I'm punting on your real question, which is 10, 15, or 30-year mortgage. I would rent, settle down, see what your cash flow looks like, and then let's determine a year from now what's out there and what you can afford to buy. Because the best way for you to control the cost of that mortgage is to make sure that you buy a smaller place, and maybe renting is going to be cheaper for you. We should see. I'm not sure. Okay, someone is asking, why are REITs being ignored? They put up positive returns. Yeah, I mean, REITs are great. It's just an asset class. So many retirement plans have them. Generally, they are good income generators. They can bounce around a little bit. So, it's okay. And finally, here's a question about someone who's got $22,000 in personal loans at a rate of 24%, $26,000 in credit card debt. Can you help me find a service that consolidate all your debt into a single lower interest rate? No. You have to do it yourself, because otherwise you're going to pay for something that you can do for yourself. Okay? It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
Well, hello. It's back here with Jill on Money. I am Jill, and I'm talking about your money. Jill Schlesinger, that is. If you've got a financial question, give us a shout. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Here's a question from Melissa, who read a column in the Baltimore Sun about information around financial advisors. So listen to this scenario. She writes, I recently received an $11 million trust, which is fully invested in stocks. I want to diversify it with real estate, et cetera. I'm very comfortable with the buying and selling of stocks. I've done it for most of my adult life. I don't want to turn the whole thing over to an advisor who would want to manage the stock part of this as well as anything else. What I need is some kind of business advisor who can help me research other opportunities like real estate. So many bad players out there. What would this kind of person be called? How should I go about identifying someone who works with me rather than someone who pats me on the head and says, there, I'll take care of this for you, dear? Would you believe a financial advisor I interviewed actually said that? Okay, so Melissa, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. I think what you're asking to figure out is whether you could be working with someone in the real estate world who can help you identify properties. And that probably requires you to go do a lot of nosing around and talking to some folks who are very much more versed in your local real estate market than I. What you may want to do is engage a fee-only financial advisor. You can go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org if you'd like to check that out. But I really would be careful because, as you say, lots of bad actors. And maybe all you really need to do is talk to maybe an attorney or a couple realtors and find out, who does more of the investment style of real estate rather than residential. Give it a try. Let me know. I don't know if that helps you or not. Faith writes, hi, Jill, you're awesome. All right, I'll read that. Okay, I'm a firefighter, vested in a pension system. I've been at the department for 10 years. For my hiring bracket, my deal isn't quite as sweet as the guys who retired 10 years ago. I know that always happens with these municipal pensions. Okay, here's how their pension works. You can retire at a minimum of 20 years service. You earn a percentage of your top 3 years' average salary. But here's the issue. You can purchase time for a portion of your current salary to buy 1 to 12 months of additional time. And think of it as a way of retiring early. Well, you can purchase time to basically get you to qualify for your pension. The question you're asking is kind of how you need to really think about this. And because this is a very specific case, I don't necessarily have to run through all the numbers for you. What I can tell you is this. This is probably a math question that you could ask a fee-only financial advisor or a CPA, either one. Anyone who does this kind of for a living in terms of math and numbers. What you're trying to figure out is whether the cost, which is about $2,000 a month, let's just say $24,000 a year, whether it makes sense to buy that time because what you're getting is this guaranteed stream of income. Now, the one thing that I think is important for you to remember is that buying this time would really be about you making a decision around, kind of how much more you want to work at this job. The question may also lead you to get to a fee-only advisor simply to run retirement numbers under these various scenarios that you're considering. So that, I think NAPFA.org is for you, lady. Really, it's very interesting. Really good question. This is a tough one, though. Carol's 83, retired. Husband passed away 2 years ago. We saved our money for our retirement. It's invested with Fidelity in an IRA. One of my sons needs a loan. Uh-oh. Ding, ding, ding. He's responsible, but he's had some unexpected medical expenses. He'd like to borrow $30,000 from me. If possible, he'd like me to make some money instead of a credit company. I'm fairly sure that if my husband were alive, he would agree to do it. Okay, we've loaned money to our other sons. My question, is it better for me to obtain the where do I take the $30,000 from? If I take it out of my IRA, I lose, I obviously have to pay taxes. It puts me in the next tax bracket. I have no debt except 3 years on a car loan. My credit's excellent. He and his wife would have to sign a note with me regarding the loan and the inheritance consequences if he were unable to pay it back. Good for you. Does he need all the money at once? That's a question. Could we give him some money this year and some money next year? Is there any other money available? I mean, the only other thing you could potentially do is I presume you have a home. You could get a line of credit on your house, potentially. That's one possibility. You can't deduct the interest on a home equity loan that's not used to improve your home, but that would be the only other thing to consider. Let me know what you end up doing. What's my time, Marco? Heather wrote a long question, so I'm not sure. See, I'm frittering away my time. Here's a suggestion. Love your podcasts. When I can't sleep, the first thing I do is reach for my phone, refresh to hear the latest podcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays after 3 a.m. Otherwise, I listen to past podcasts. Hey, do you want to join DB and do that? All you have to do is subscribe to our podcast. It's Jill on Money. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcast. DB wants us to go check out AAUW, Equal Pay for Women, Salary Negotiation Course. It's found out about it by reading Lily Ledbetter's book. Let's get Lily Ledbetter as a guest, Mark. Go get him. Okay, it's Jill on Money. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. We are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Go to policygenius.com. Heather writes that last year she called in and we talked about backdoor Roths, and she says, I'm back with more questions. Last year, my employer's 401k plan announced that they will allow after-tax contributions and in-plan Roth conversions. This is so cool. It's sort of a new twist. The question here, I'm already maxing out my Roth 401k contribution. Should I contribute another chunk of my paycheck and presumably immediately convert it to a Roth, or should I keep that money on hand for near-term goals, house, kids, general flexibility? I've been great about saving for retirement, but I'm getting married this year. My future husband doesn't have much saved for retirement. I forced him to open a Roth IRA last year. I'm thinking it would be good to pack my retirement account to bring our combined retirement balance up. I'm not sure how to weigh how much to put towards this retirement contribution versus what to keep accessible for other goals. Well, I know that you probably have your emergency reserve fund, so that's all set. You got 6 to 12 months in the bank. I think that if you've got young-ish kids and you have some needs in the future, I wouldn't necessarily do this immediately. Why don't you get married, see how your cash flow goes, and see what your needs are, and then you can decide. You don't have to do this today. Let's see what you got in the future. Here's another Roth question from Steve, and he and his wife have $2.2 million in tax-deferred retirement accounts, $1 million in taxable accounts, big emergency reserve fund, $250,000. I'm 63. My wife is 60. Going to work another couple of years. I'm fortunate to have a good pension, $45,000 a year. I've been retired 6 years. They have yet to draw on any retirement or investment accounts, as my pension plus my wife's income covers all of our expenses and then some. I've yet to start Social Security. I tend to wait till at least my full retirement age. Question, does it make sense to start converting tax-deferred accounts to Roths over the next several years, given the magnitude of required minimum distributions, or should I just leave well enough alone? I would start doing small Roth conversions that don't pop you into another tax bracket. So that's what I would do. Yeah, I'd like to get some Roth money for you. Okay, that's it. That's the show. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a financial question, day, night, doesn't matter. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And you can always go to the website, jillonmoney.com. Sign up for our free weekly newsletter. And why don't you go help me out? Buy the book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. Okay, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening.